Hey everybody, it's Book of Catherine. I hope this video finds you well, wherever you are in the world. So, I mentioned on Twitter today that Macy's is closing its stores in very certain cities, and those cities are high theft areas. So, for example, Los Angeles, the trains are being constantly raided. They have laws that are sanctuary state laws, which means that if you're a foreign national who has crossed the border illegally, you won't get prosecuted, which has just brought cartels from all over the world. And they can raid these trains with impunity. And even if the cops catch them, they won't be prosecuted. They'll just be let go. And so that, of course, has attracted a ton of thieves. And similar things have happened in like Colorado. Colorado, for example, is a great place. It's connected to all the gangs, all these interstates here. For example, here in LA, all the ones that touch the border here, they go right through. They go all the way through to Mexico City and down to Honduras. So there's an immense amount of gang activity that just traffics things straight on. Yes, they go to Los Angeles, but if they want to get to the whole nation, they go straight up this interstate right here, this Interstate 25, or they take the Rio Grande, they hit the 70, and then they have access to the entire United States very, very easily. So this is Colorado right here at this intersection of the red and the blue, and that's Denver. So of course that's a high, frequency state for robberies. That gangs have heavily infiltrated that state because it's not just a hub. But if they're going to send drugs, why not send stolen goods as well? There's every kind of trafficking going on, not just sex slave or not just prostitution, not just narcotics or methamphetamines. It's also stolen goods. So you can kind of understand, okay, Los Angeles is getting closed. You can understand that Colorado is getting closed. You can understand that Hawaii is getting closed, all the things that are happening in Hawaii. But perhaps you don't understand why Maryland is getting closed. And that's what I wanted to talk to you about today, because Maryland just seems like it's this, random state. Why would Macy's be closing all of its stores in Maryland? What is going on in Maryland? Like, why isn't New York, or why isn't, what's with Maryland? Well, not Boston. What's the deal with Maryland? The reason it's Maryland is because that's what surrounds Washington, D.C. the most. People think Virginia is where Washington, D.C. is. And yes, it has some things like Langley and some of the space centers there, but the majority of what it's surrounded by is Maryland. And so that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. Is it's a pretty big thing when Washington, D.C., which gets so much traffic, Maryland is where they're shutting down. They may not be shutting down what's in actual Washington, D.C., but they're definitely shutting down everything in Maryland. Well, Maryland is a huge, huge epicenter for MS-13, the enforcement segment of the Sinaloa gang. So, but it's not just that. There's an immense amount of Freemasons there. There's an immense amount of the Nation of Islam. Like, the Nation of Islam is almost 50%, if not more, of Washington, D.C.'s actual citizenry. Like, when you look up the population statistics, and if you ever visit, it is predominantly the Nation of Islam that's there. Like the Louis Farrakhan, he did a very, very smart thing as far as if you want to make war on a nation, go through with the caliphate that was declared in 1991 against the United States of America. That's the best way to do it, isn't it? To go to the capital. So my point in making this today is not just to say that's why Maryland is being shut down because of all these things that are there, but also, Chesapeake Bay. You have to understand the history of what happened here. Now, America is not a perfect place. It is definitely evil, just like the rest of the world is evil. Humanity is very, very evil. It's capable of horrendous things. The demons couldn't do as much as they did if humans weren't interested in power. So that's like, for example, Lord of the Rings, Tolkien. He didn't just make that up about humans who want power. What they want more than anything is power. That's what egotistical means. That's what wanting to be the best means, wanting to be the champion means, wanting to earn the most means, being a millionaire means. All of that has to do with power in our own way. Even manipulations within churches or being a pastor, that has to do with power. It's amazing. We don't like to think of it that way, but it is. So, the reason that I wanted to point this out is to say, well, why the Washington, D.C. has attracted a ton of demons. And that's because the United States, whether, we like it or not, for a long time was a place where, political dissidents could go, people who disagreed with their governments, people who left ex-Muslims could go there, ex-slaves could go there. It's a place where, a lot of people have fled from all around the world, from slave camps, from child labor camps. They flee to the United States of America. And that has made it a target for demons. So there's a reason that Jesus said to be wise as serpent, innocent as a dove. People seem to focus on being innocent as a dove. And this goes for everyone around the world who is trying to be truthful, or trying to honor the Lord, or trying to, obey the universal laws like the Ten Commandments. Even if you don't know what the Ten Commandments are, there are people who are trying to live on the straight and narrow and trying to be good people and trying to kind of like not go out of their lane or do evil. There are people who avoid evil, basically, who avoid being Death Eaters. And they are targets. They are definite targets. And so a lot of them flee to the United States. And my point is that has made the United States a massive target for demons and demonology. There's a reason people think a quarter of Mexico emptied into the United States because, there's just a lot of jobs up here. And that's actually not the case at all. We've had so many recessions. And the reason is because there's this huge, down in Veracruz, there's this massive worship of Satan, huge worship of Satan. That's why there's so many gangs down there. Of course, this isn't all of America, but the Caribbean, not all of the United States. This isn't all of Mexico, but the Caribbean and Latin America and Mexico, there is this worship of the saint of death. There is a huge worship of death, the mother of death, the Satan of death. And there are even sorcerers in Veracruz who say, "Hail Satan." They worship Satan and they worship the dead, and those are demons. They do a huge celebration. Just January 6th is a huge celebration of demons. You can see demons dancing around over there in Benin, West Africa, the birthplace of voodoo. So there's so many devil worshippers that it's not tied into their governments or anything, but devil worshippers have a very easy way to come up into the United States. And usually if you worship devils, then you get devils attached to you, or you become demon possessed. And once that happens, the demons are like, great, let's go into the place where all of our victims have escaped and let's hunt them down there. So that is something to keep in mind, that when you're out there, part of the reason he says, I guess I just wanted to make the point that when the people who are being attacked are the ones who are avoiding evil. Quite often, there's the natural law. People who do evil, the natural law will snap back on them. But don't be so unwise to think that you will not be attacked or not be hunted down if you're out there saying, "Oh, I have found Jesus," and "Oh, I'm looking for a mate," and "Why can't I find a good guy?" and "Why can't I find a good girl?" And you put that all out online. Or you say, "Oh, this is my job," or "This is this, and I'm just trying to live for Jesus." They will come and hunt you. They will come and find you. They will purchase your information, and they will hunt you down, and they'll take your daughter, or they'll molest your daughters. They'll do whatever they can to break your faith. And so that's why the Gospels actually say, say something when someone approaches you. Live your life, follow Jesus, do what Jesus says to do. And then when someone approaches you and asks you, then you share with them. So it's already hard enough to just hear the Lord and follow Jesus. And it's already hard enough anywhere in the world, no matter what faith you are, to go ahead and avoid evil. You already know what it's like to be hunted. Everyone who has done this actually knows, I certainly know what it's like. I certainly see it in my friends. It is a dangerous world right now here at the end of times. The shadow is so dark that, of course, if we're this beaming light, that we're going to become a target. Become wise as serpents. Start to read The Art of War. Start reading up. I think it's smart that Macy's is closing its doors. I think it's smart in the areas where evil is greatest. I think it's smart if you go ahead and flee from that. But of course, most of all, talk to the Lord directly. But a lot of you hear the Lord say, flee, and you're just too scared. You're like, well, that would mean leaving my family, and that would mean doing this. And all the things in our culture says that that's a bad thing to do, right? And that's the choice that Peter and all the apostles had to make. Is Jesus just came by and said, "Follow me," and then they dropped everything. That's what it means to follow him. Anyway, I love you guys so much. I'll talk to you later, and just keep that in mind, that going ahead and declaring a state of freedom, that's putting yourself out there. The founders wrote about that, by the way. They said there's no way that America can stay actually exist as a nation. They only gave it like 150 years, max 200 years, and that's about when 1950 is really when the USA fell. And they said the morality would have to stay together, and they didn't. America just let 10 commandments be taken off all their school walls, which is the basis of government. And America became sworn. Won 2 world wars. It just became a major target by the demons of the world. It was from the very beginning of its birth, and you can see that if you read history. It's been a war always to be in existence. Not that it's some holy place, but it does allow people who have been victims of demons elsewhere, where demons are openly worshipped. It has been a place where they can go and at least live in peace by a piece of land, or just live in a hotel room and not be hunted down just for saying that they don't belong to Islam anymore. I mean, in Islam, to leave Islam is to be killed. In some ways, it feels that way when you're leaving Catholicism. It feels like your whole family will not talk to you. Scientology is the same way. But there are places and ways there used to be to hide in the USA more than other places. That's not necessarily the case anymore. I think the world has turned too dark, and that's a big sign that, I think that Revelations, all the signs point to the end of Revelations. I think that the New Jerusalem has come, and that, we're supposed to be following him to it. And he's not going to force us there. He's not going to do this thing where he zaps us up like we're aliens. He's going to say, "Here, I'm calling you here," and our job is to follow him there. Right? So he's going to say, "You can come," and I don't think anybody will go to the New Jerusalem that doesn't know how to talk to him or didn't ask him for help to get there. So, but I think that's why the world is turning darker, because that process has definitely been going on. That's what all the prophecies say, is that the New Jerusalem has arrived, and we've definitely seen the world start tilting. We've seen massive drops in populations. We've seen massive drops in sales. And I just think that's a sign of that things have turned, and it's time to be prepared and be wise as serpents. Read The Art of War, get smart, read Jesus, stop reading Paul. Paul only encourages us to be slaves. Like the Romans, they read the Roman philosophers. He just quotes Roman philosophers. All right, I'm going to keep going. Anyway, you got my point. I love you guys so much, and I'll let you go. And I just wanted to talk to you about that today. Gotta go. Love you. Bye.